Hello, my name is Michael Newlander, and I am the Grand Historian of the Grand Lodge of Tennessee, and I welcome you to your Grand Lodge Museum. This year, we are featuring two exhibits in the museum in 2026. The first is the Royal Arch Chapter of Tennessee Bicentennial exhibit. The Royal Arch Chapter of Tennessee was formed January 18, 1826. Our second exhibit is in partnership with the 250th anniversary of America, where we are featuring early Tennessee Freemasons who had made a contribution to the founding of our nation.
I'm Dr. John Eberly, Chairman of the Tennessee Masonic Historical Library and Museum. As we approach America's 250th anniversary, we are proud to highlight the lives of Revolutionary War veterans who also helped shape early Tennessee and its Masonic history. These men were more than soldiers. They were pioneers, builders, leaders, and Freemasons whose legacy still echoes through our state and our fraternity. We invite you to join us as we remember their stories and honor their contributions.
I am serving this year as the Worshipful Master of Columbia Lodge number 31, which was the home lodge of Brother James Knox Polk. His Masonic journey started in 1820 when he was raised in the lodge. He was elected junior warden in 1821. Royal Arch Companion Polk became a charter member of Lafayette Chapter number 4 in Columbia, Tennessee. In 1826, however, Polk's Masonic career was shortened due to his interest in politics. Brother Polk was born in 1795 and grew up in North Carolina. He was a prodigious student and graduated from the University of North Carolina, where he delivered the commencement speech in Latin. Polk established a successful law office in Columbia, Tennessee in 1820. He first entered politics with a successful run for the Tennessee legislature at the age of 27 and served a single term there. Polk's rapid political ascension was aided in part by his relationship to another of Tennessee's most famous politicians and Freemason, past Grand Worshipful Master Andrew Jackson. Brother Polk was a stalwart Jacksonian Democrat who supported expanding the country's territory and limited federal government. Polk was elected to the United States House of Representatives in 1825, where he served 7 terms in the United States Congress, including 2 terms as Speaker of the House. Polk's time in Congress was marked by several controversial decisions, including the Indian Removal Act of 1830 and the Gag Rule of 1836-44, which aimed to silence the debate over slavery in the House. Polk had been a slave owner all his life. He actively had his slave overseers purchase slaves for a new plantation that he purchased in Mississippi while he was president. Polk served as governor of Tennessee from 1831 to 45. Brother Polk, at the age of 49, was elected the 11th President of the United States, 1845 to 49. Polk's presidential accomplishment was in turning his and the Democratic Party's vision of a continental nation spanning from the Atlantic to the Pacific Ocean in reality. Texas joined the country as the 28th state during his first year in office. Tense negotiations with Great Britain concluded with the American annexation of the Oregon Territory south of the 49th parallel. Following a controversial 2-year war, Mexico ceded New Mexico and California to the United States. Thus, the United States acquired more than 1 million square miles of Western territory and expanded its boundary to the Pacific Ocean under President Polk's presidency. However, Polk's critics had been correct when they warned of the dangers of expansion. Texas annexation led to a contentious war with Mexico, which even in its own time was unpopular and hotly contested, as imperialistic and incompatible with democratic ideals. James Polk made the United States larger and more powerful than ever before. But this rapid growth caused significant growing pains. The new territories inflamed sectional tensions between slave states and free states, and ultimately hastened the coming of the Civil War. James K. Polk worked tirelessly as president and looked forward to a restful retirement where he believed the nation would celebrate his accomplishments. Tragically, Polk died of cholera just 103 days after leaving office. At the time of his death, thousands of Americans were rushing west into the territory Polk had acquired for the United States in search of gold in California. Brother James K. Polk was a man whose life had been shaped by his early years on the Tennessee frontier and had left a vast new frontier as his legacy.
Major John Baker Sr. embodied the spirit of the early American frontier and of early Tennessee Freemasonry. Born in 1755 in Bertie County, North Carolina, he came from a family already marked by public service and leadership. He was the son of Lieutenant Colonel John Baker, the first High Sheriff of his county and later Secretary of State of North Carolina, and the grandson of Colonel Henry Baker. From the beginning, his life was shaped by duty, responsibility, and the call to serve. When the American Revolution began, John Baker answered that call. Shortly after the signing of the Declaration of Independence in 1776, he joined the North Carolina 7th Regiment as a captain under Colonel James Hogan. He marched north to reinforce General George Washington during the Philadelphia campaign, and fought in the Battle of Brandywine, where he was wounded. After that hard campaign, Baker's regiment joined the division of Marquis de Lafayette, and wintered with the Continental Army at Valley Forge until 1778. Like so many patriots of his generation, John Baker gave not only his allegiance to the cause of liberty, but also his strength, his endurance, and his blood. After the war, he returned home to North Carolina and resumed the work of family and community. He married Anne Norfleet, joining another prominent family of landowners and civic leaders. Then, in the 1790s, John and Ann Baker moved west with their children into what would become the Montgomery and Robertson County region of Tennessee. There, on the edge of growing frontier, Major Baker became what so many Revolutionary veterans became in the early Republic. Not only a former soldier, but a builder of communities. Brothers John Baker, James Norfleet, and Jack Turner appear again and again in the early history of Robertson County. Together, they formed part of the leadership circle that helped shape this region in the years following Tennessee's statehood in 1796. Their service was not limited to politics or settlement. It also extended to education, morality, and the institutions needed to sustain a thriving community. In 1806, John Baker and James Norfleet were among the trustees appointed to guide Liberty Academy, one of the earliest formal educational institutions in the area. That role reveals something important about Major Baker's legacy. He was not only concerned with defending a young nation, he was equally concerned with building a better one. These three pioneering Freemasons next turned their attention to establishing the first Masonic lodge in the area. On May 1st, 1812, Ray Lodge No. 61, later known as Western Star Lodge No. 9, was chartered in Port Royal under the Grand Lodge of North Carolina and Tennessee. Brother Baker served as its very first worshipful master. With him stood his friends and brother Masons, Major Jack E. Turner as Senior Warden, and Major James Norfleet as Junior Warden. Then, in the following year, it joined the other existing lodges in helping form the Grand Lodge of Tennessee. In that sense, Brother Baker did more than help establish a local lodge. He helped lay part of the foundation for organized Freemasonry in Tennessee itself. His Masonic legacy stands beside his military and civic legacy as part of one larger life of service. He was a patriot in war, a pioneer in settlement, a supporter of education, and a builder of brotherhood. In his later years, John and Ann Baker moved closer to Clarksville, where they helped care for their grandchildren after the untimely death of their daughter Lucinda, the wife of Governor Wiley Blount. Even there, in the quieter years of life, we see again the same pattern: duty to family, duty to community, and steadfast devotion to those entrusted to his care. Major John Baker Sr. died on December 22, 1829. He is remembered as a veteran of the Revolution, a civic leader, a patriarch, and a founding figure in early Tennessee Freemasonry. His memory endures at Greenwood Cemetery, where the family monument still stands as a witness to his life and legacy. Like so many of the best men of his generation, Brother Baker helped build the world that followed him. He helped win American independence. He helped shape the Tennessee frontier. He helped support education and public life. And he helped establish the bonds of Masonry in this region for generations to come.
Judge David Campbell was a Revolutionary War veteran, early Tennessee jurist, and Freemason whose life was deeply woven into the political turbulence of the Tennessee frontier. Born in Augusta County, Virginia, Campbell served in the Continental cause and rose to the rank of major in the Virginia militia. For his service, he later received 300 acres of land in what became Ray County, Tennessee. He married Elizabeth Outlaw in 1779, and together they had 12 children. Around 1783, Campbell moved to what is now Greene County, Tennessee. He was elected judge of the Washington District, but chose instead to align himself with Brother John Sevier and the leaders of the short-lived state of Franklin. Campbell was credited as one of the authors of the Franklin Constitution in 1784. And when Sevier became governor, Campbell was elected Chief Justice of the ill-fated state, earning a yearly salary of 500 deerskins. Frontier payroll was apparently not yet on direct deposit. By 1787, Campbell had returned to North Carolina's authority and was elected to the North Carolina legislature. Later that same year, he became a judge of the Superior Court of Washington District. In 1790, when some North Carolina officials sought to arrest Sevier for treason, Campbell stood by his Masonic brother and refused to issue the warrant. That same year, Congress created the Southwest Territory, Brother William Blount was appointed governor, and Campbell became territorial judge, serving until Tennessee achieved statehood in 1796. But politics on the frontier were anything but peaceful. In 1791, the Holston Treaty Line ran directly through Campbell's home. When neither Blount nor Sevier would adjust it, Campbell was actually forced from his house by soldiers hired by his former allies. He demanded satisfaction from Blount, meaning a duel, but Blount ignored him and later tried to remove him from office by impeachment. Campbell survived politically, thanks in part to a new alliance with Brother Andrew Jackson, who had by then become an enemy of both Sevier and Blount. Campbell later served as a judge of the state of Tennessee from 1797 to 1809, surviving yet another impeachment attempt. In Ray County, he farmed the land he had earned through wartime service and donated part of it for the First County Courthouse at Washington. Brother David Campbell was a member of Tennessee Lodge No. 2, formerly North Carolina Lodge No. 41. And in one of history's better ironies, his political rival and fellow Mason, John Sevier, was the first worshipful master of that same lodge. Judge David Campbell died in 1812, shortly after being named federal judge of the Mississippi Territory.
General John Sevier stands among the great founding figures of Tennessee and of the early American frontier. Born in 1745 in Virginia, he was raised in a world shaped by migration, hardship, and independence. As a young man, he moved west into the frontier settlements along the Holston and Watauga, where he quickly emerged as a man of action, influence, and uncommon leadership. When the American Revolution reached the southern frontier, Sevier answered the call. In 1780, he joined the Over Mountain Men and helped lead the Patriot victory at the Battle of Kings Mountain, one of the decisive turning points of the Revolutionary War in the South. That victory secured his reputation as a frontier hero and established him as one of the most important military leaders of his generation. But John Sevier was more than a soldier. He was a statesman and a builder. In the turbulent years after the Revolution, he served as governor of the short-lived state of Franklin, an early and bold effort at self-government on the western frontier. Then, when Tennessee entered the Union in 1796 as the 16th state, Sevier became its first governor. Over 6 terms, he helped lay the foundations of civil government in this new state and guided Tennessee through its earliest formative years. Yet, for those of us who reflect on his life today, there is another part of his legacy that holds special meaning. John Sevier was also Brother Sevier, a Freemason. In 1800, he became the first worshipful master of Tennessee Lodge No. 2 in Knoxville, one of the earliest lodges in the state. In that role, he helped establish and strengthen the principles of organized Freemasonry in Tennessee, at a time when the craft stood close to the heart of civic life in the young American Republic. Brother Sevier embodied many of the virtues Freemasonry seeks to cultivate: courage, fidelity, public service, and devotion to the welfare of others. The same man who led in battle and governed a frontier people also took his place in the lodge among his brethren, helping build not only a state, but a tradition of brotherhood that would endure for generations. John Sevier died in 1815, still serving his country. But his legacy did not die with him. His name lives on across Tennessee, and his memory endures as soldier, statesman, and Freemason. Known to many as Nolichucky Jack, he was in every sense a builder of communities, of institutions, of Tennessee itself, and the bonds of brotherhood.
Return Jonathan Meigs Sr. was a Revolutionary War officer, pioneer statesman, and Freemason whose life left a lasting mark on both the American frontier and early Tennessee history. He was made a Mason in St. John's Lodge No. 2 in Middletown, Connecticut, and remained active in Masonic circles throughout his life. During the Revolutionary War, Meigs served with distinction. He was captured during the invasion of Quebec, later exchanged and returned to duty. He went on to lead a daring raid that destroyed 12 British ships and large quantities of supplies without losing a single man. He also fought in the famous Midnight Bayonet assault under General Mad Anthony Wayne. After the war, Meigs helped found Marietta, Ohio, helped draft the first legal code for the Northwest Territory, and became its first Justice of the Peace. Later, he was appointed by President Thomas Jefferson to serve as Cherokee Indian Agent, a position he held until his death in 1823. In that role, Meigs became deeply involved with several prominent Tennessee Freemasons. He often clashed with Brother John Sevier, who pushed for stronger action against the Cherokee for more Cherokee land to be opened to settlers. He also resisted pressure from Brother William Blount, the first governor of the Southwest Territory, who sought additional Cherokee lands as well. Meigs' relationship with Brother Andrew Jackson was more complicated. At one point, Meigs helped recruit more than 600 Cherokee warriors to fight alongside Jackson against the Red Stick Creeks at Horseshoe Bend. Those Cherokee forces were led by John Ross, later Principal Chief of the Cherokee Nation and a member of Olive Branch Lodge No. 54. Meigs also worked closely with Ross for years, and is said to have acted as a father figure to Sam Houston during Houston's early years among the Cherokee. In January of 1823, Chief Pathkiller arrived at the Cherokee Agency on official business. With no suitable lodging available, Meigs gave the chief his own bed and slept outside. He contracted pneumonia and died a few days later. It was a final act that reflected the kind of man he was. Brother Return Jonathan Meigs Sr. was a soldier, a Mason, and a bridge between nations, remembered for courage, service, and honor.
Meriwether Lewis was born on August 19, 1774, in Albemarle, Virginia. He was born about 3 miles from Thomas Jefferson's Monticello, and from a young age, him and his family had a very good relationship with the Jeffersons. When Lewis was 18, the American Philosophical Society, which was founded by Brother Benjamin Franklin, had the idea for exploring the western territories of North America. Lewis approached Jefferson desiring the appointment, but he was refused and another man was taken in place. Afterwards, Lewis became quite restless on the plantation and decided that a sedentary life was not for him. He joined George Washington's militia to put down the Whiskey Rebellion and later joined the United States Army. While on leave from his army appointment in 1797 at the age of 25, Lewis became a Freemason at Door to Virtue Lodge number 44 in Albemarle, Virginia. After his military service, Thomas Jefferson wrote a letter to Lewis saying that Jefferson was in need of a personal secretary. Lewis took the job and moved into the president's mansion with Thomas Jefferson, who was now a widower. Lewis was 28 when he moved in with Thomas Jefferson at the president's mansion. 2 years later, at the age of 30, Thomas Jefferson decided that it was now pertinent to explore the Western territories. Jefferson gave the job to Meriwether Lewis, and in 1804, the Corps of Discovery, led by Meriwether Lewis and William Clark, who would later become a Freemason in St. Louis, departed on their adventure with 35 men. From 1804 to 1806, the Corps of Discovery successfully explored and mapped the Western territories of the United States, reaching all the way to the Pacific Ocean and back. After the Corps of Discovery had completed its mission, I wish I could tell you that the life of Meriwether Lewis was filled with triumph and celebration and happiness and joy, but it was not so. Jefferson appointed Lewis the governor of the Upper Louisiana Territory, where he quickly fell into administrative distress. Lewis failed to publish his journals, which all of the country were waiting to read, and at the age of 35, nearly broke, Lewis decided that he had to make it back to Virginia to talk with Jefferson and to sort out his affairs in Washington. Lewis began moving down the Mississippi River towards New Orleans, and then took an overland route up the Natchez Trace. On that journey up the Natchez Trace, when he was 75 miles from Nashville in what is now called Hohenwald, Tennessee, Meriwether Lewis would spend the night at the Grinders Inn. At 3 a.m., a gunshot rings out, and Lewis screams. Shortly after, a second gunshot. Those traveling with Lewis find him the next morning laying in his room with a gunshot to the body and a gunshot to the front of his head. But the captain was not dead. He was very much alive. Shortly after sunrise, Lewis would utter his final words, "I am no coward, but I am so strong, so hard to die." And Lewis would perish on October 11th, 1809. I would encourage you to go to Hohenwald and visit the memorial and the grave of Captain Lewis, our brother. See the place where he met his fatal end, and I think you'll appreciate the broken column which is erected in his honor, a symbol in masonry of a life cut short. Thank you for joining me for this short story on Brother Meriwether Lewis, and I hope that you enjoy your time in our library and museum.